slowly peter out, so not actually a lot of rain arriving into East Anglia. And then behind it, it does turn drier and brighter, some good spells of sunshine developing before then the next band of rain arrives in the west. Mild temperatures potentially reaching 17 degrees in the southeast. Tuesday, a rather grey and damp start. Plenty of spots of rain around. As the day goes on, we will see some bright spells across parts of Northern Ireland, Scotland, maybe Northern England too, and still remaining fairly mild. Wednesday, Thursday stays fairly changeable, quite wet potentially on Wednesday, but all the time temperatures for all of us in double figures.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We've got cash, treats and a spring shopping spree to be won in a great British giveaway. You could win an amazing £12,345 in tax-free cash. Plus there's a further £500 of shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. We'll also give you a gadget package to use in your garden this spring. That includes a games console, a pizza oven and a portable smart speaker, so you can listen to GB News on the go. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
So after his mad dash to see his father last week, Prince Harry predictably went on TV to talk about it. He gave his first interview to Good Morning America, whilst apparently being filmed by a crew that were doing a documentary on the Invictus Games. He didn't disclose his father's diagnosis, but frankly, even the fact that he was on TV talking about it was concerning. No wonder they're keeping him at arm's length. This is what he said.
How did you get the news that the King was ill?
I spoke to him.
And what did you do next?
I jumped on a plane and went to go and see him as soon as I could.
How was that visit for you emotionally?
Look, I love my family. The fact that I was able to get on a plane and go and see him and spend any time with him, I'm grateful for that.
An illness in the family can have a galvanizing or sort of reunifying effect for a family. Absolutely. Is that possible in this case?
Yeah, I'm sure. Throughout all these families, I see it on a day-to-day basis. The strength of the family unit coming together.
He also said that he loves his family, but then he said that he had his own family in America. So which family does he love? The late Queen's last few years of life were marred with accusations of racism, which Harry later backtracked on, claiming that they hadn't actually used the word, so inadvertently admitting to gaslighting us all. But the Sussex's stock is falling in the States, and the only thing that makes them interesting is their proximity to the royal family. And now the King is ill, Harry has even offered to muck in and take on official duties to help his father. Look, I want to see reconciliation and love and joy, but I'm afraid Meghan has yet to even speak to her father as far as we know, and Harry didn't apparently even reach out to his brother. Whilst his dad might fall for it, I doubt William will be as soft. Good luck with that, Harry.
Very good evening to you. It's 11 o'clock. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB newsroom. Vladimir Putin has claimed a landslide victory in Russia's presidential election, saying it will make his country stronger and more effective. Early results have given him more than 87% of the vote, ensuring another 6-year term, which was fully expected. He thanked voters for their support, hours after thousands in Russia and around the world held anti-Putin protests at polling stations, inspired by the widow of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Mr. Putin claimed he'd agreed to a prisoner swap involving the Kremlin critic days before his death in prison last month. At least 80 people have been arrested in cities across Russia. Transport Secretary Mark Harper says Rishi Sunak will lead the Tories into the next election. Senior Conservatives have been attempting to downplay claims of a Tory plot to replace the Prime Minister with Penny Mordaunt. It would mean a fourth leader of the party in just 5 years. Mr Harper says, unlike Labour, the The Conservatives do have a plan to deliver for the country.
We've got to show them, by the time of the election, two things. We've got to show them that we've got a plan, the plan is working and it's delivering for them. And I think we can see that it is on inflation and on taxes. We've also then got to show them that the Labour Party doesn't have a plan and will be a big risk. You know, for example, we know the Labour Party wants to spend £28 billion on their green plan. They've hidden the price tag now, but they don't know how to pay for it. That would mean taxes going up.
Good news for motorists. The M25 in Surrey's reopened 8 hours ahead of schedule after a weekend of driver disruption. Work began on Friday to demolish a bridge and install a new gantry, leading to miles of tailbacks in Surrey. It was the motorway's first daytime closure since it opened in 1986. One person's been arrested for tragedy chanting following Manchester United's FA Cup victory over Liverpool at Old Trafford. A number of home supporters in the Stretford end were heard chanting "murderers" and "always the victims" towards Liverpool fans, with the singing audible to the TV audience. The FA has condemned the chanting and has vowed to liaise with police. Manchester United won the game 4-3 after extra time. Tributes have been paid to Steve Harley, the Cockney rebel frontman who's died at the age of 73. Come up and say this to make me smile. The singer, best known for the 1970s hit Make Me Smile, had to pause his tour last month to have treatment for cancer. Rod Stewart says he's absolutely devastated. Duran Duran's John Taylor thanked Steve Harley for the good vibes. His family, in a statement, said his heart exuded only core elements: passion, kindness, generosity and much more in abundance. And revellers have been gathering in cities around the world to celebrate St Patrick's Day. In Belfast, thousands of people turned out to watch a noisy and colourful procession in the city centre. And no shortage of shamrocks, music and leprechauns in Dublin, where locals, usually accompanied by a clinking bag, vie with tourists along O'Connell Street to watch the annual parade, the largest ever this year, according to organisers. But no one celebrates being Irish quite like the Americans, and Chicago has geared up for the traditional parades, with the city's river being dyed green, as always. For the latest stories, you can sign up to GB News Alerts, scan the QR code on your screen, or go to our website. Now, it's time for Headliners.
Thank you, Aaron. Hello and welcome to Headliners, your run through the next day's newspapers with three comedians. I'm Leo Kurth, and tonight I'm joined by Paul Cox, the People's Gammon.
Good evening.
And making his Headliners debut, it's Adam Kumis, who doesn't have a nickname yet.
Yeah. I'm going with the Croydon Massive. That's what I'm representing Croydon.
Croydon Massive.
Yeah.
Nice fun.
That is going to stick.
Yeah, good.
Let's move for the next, 13 years.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, man. Born and bred.
Well, that's the nicknames out of the way. Let's have a look at tomorrow's front pages. The Daily Mail leads with Sunak allies rage at Penny Mordaunt. The Times has, "This is our bounce back year," Sunak tells critics rather optimistically. The Guardian has, "Watchdog condemns NHS culture of cover-ups." The Express has, "Tory MP's plot to topple Rishi is just self-indulgence." The iNews has, "Revealed top secret UK military system still managed by Fujitsu." And finally, the Daily Star has, "Easter a Beaster." And those were your front pages. And let's have a closer look at those front pages, starting with the Sun, Paul.
Yeah. Sorry, just composed myself after that, Leo. Kate Outdoors, which I think is a play on the great outdoors. So, happy and healthy. Princess Kate spotted out and about for the first time since surgery as she visits a farm shop with wills. So the sightings come...
And when you say wills, you don't mean... this could add to the conspiracy theory. They're already preparing legal documents.
It's just what the paper, and of course myself, call William.
Right.
So, no, this is... She wasn't carrying a will.
Yeah.
That would be...
She's been on the internet. She's read some of the things that people have been speculating about what might have happened to her. So she's decided to, just get ready in case they're right.
You hear it here first, peeps. The sightings come amid wild speculation, Leo, and gossip about her health and the whereabouts, which left the royal couple devastated. I mean, I'm shocked because I did see a guy called Trevor on TikTok say he was now living on the moon, and I was very surprised to see her out and about today. And she's on the front cover, and it says she's on the mend, Kate, seen in autumn, and made 2 trips to the weekend. Now, we had this discussion, Leo. We have no idea what that means. We believe it might mean the colour of her blazer.
But Adam, would you say that's an autumn-coloured blazer?
I wouldn't have. I don't have any idea. I'd say it's red.
Yeah, it looks red to me.
Yeah.
It looks red to me. And were you following all the sort of farrago with the Photoshop?
Yeah, poorly done.
She hadn't been seen in public for a while.
Yeah.
So for them to then release this photoshopped image, which apparently had been photoshopped and put together from a composite of several images, according to some YouTube videos that I watched.
Yeah. Well, because she said she did the photoshopping herself, I think, didn't she? She did like a bit of that, and I think she got a lot of stick for it. And I think she's no different from any Instagram influencer, like putting filters on and photoshopping it, as long as the kids didn't have like emojis for the eyes and stuff. I thought she got a bit of slack, but Yeah,
and it's good to see somebody, even a royal kind of a side hustle.
That's exactly it.
Get involved in some sort of tech side hustle.
I mean, she didn't blame anyone else. She just said, I did it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to feel sorry. I think this, I never understand, I've never truly understood this story, right? Lady is unwell, needs time to recuperate.
Yeah.
And then there's all this other stuff. You've got Big Trev on TikTok saying she lives on the moon, she only lives on cheese now. Which I did believe as well. I'm going to DM Big Trev when I get home tonight and say, look, Trev, what on earth is this?
I think Big Trev's got a point. I think, we pay for the royals. The least they could do is put live streaming cameras 24 hours a day in their hospital rooms. So that'd be nice to see. Yeah. Moving on to the iNews, Adam, what have they got?
The iNews, it's been revealed that top secret UK military systems have still been managed, and they're still being managed by Fujitsu. So this is the news that the IT giant is, with the one that's been at the centre of the Post Office Horizon scandal, is still managing a highly classified British military computer system. Yeah. So this is obviously really interesting news. I mean, I was not unaware of this, and I think that the idea that the Japanese giant Fujitsu is embedded in our military is, it's crazy to hear. Yeah.
Although in Fujitsu's defence, pronounce them using English. I forgot.
Sorry, I don't understand. Unless you use the right phrasing, I don't understand.
In their defence, so Fujitsu UK, they took over an existing UK company, which was, I think it was called International Computers Limited, which was basically like a state-run Amstrad. So terrible in 2 ways. Then, you know what I mean? So they inherited this terrible lumpen British company, and that's where a lot of the problems have come from. If you look at Japanese tech, it's usually a lot sharper and slicker. Has anybody who's got a PlayStation 5?
And they've got cool names like Fujitsu and not, Big Barry's Computers Limited, or whatever they were called previously.
Would you like to see another Japanese company come in and take over? Maybe Toshiba or Mitsubishi?
Adam, please.
I think it's really interesting. There is when I found out that they were involved, there was a part of me that did die, because you think of Fujitsu as a cute compact camera. It's one of the cameras I got was a Fujitsu, and then you realise they're involved in British military. And it's the same thing when you hear about Samsung. You think, it's just an innocent Korean company, and then you go, they also make tanks, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, of course. And a lot of our MOD contracts rely heavily on third-party companies, whoever they might be. Yeah. And do you know what? We couldn't just extract them. I know this story came out this year, but there's no way they could be extracted in that time. It would take years. They'd be literally suing us for the last 400 quid we got.
Yeah, well, thank God we weren't dependent on Russian tanks. Well, if Europe had relied on Russia as a supplier of tanks, that would have been a terrible mistake. I mean, it was already a terrible mistake to be dependent on Russia for gas and oil. But yeah, that's at least Japan is a friendly country. Moving on to the Express, Paul, what have they got on the front cover?
Tory MP's plot to topple Rishi is just self-indulgence. And this is Esther McVeigh, a colleague of ours, insists the overwhelming majority of the Conservative MPs support Rishi Sunak and want to end this leadership positioning. And it comes from Esther, who I've met here. She's a lovely person, and she's quite clearly standing behind Rishi Sunak here. She's saying she's the common sense minister, which I always find quite amusing. I mean, what does that, Esther?
I mean, in 2024...
Tweet me, what does that mean?
In 2024, we do need a common sense minister.
That's a good point, actually.
Makes a lot of sense.
To be fair, we don't see enough of her. She's literally every day she'd just pop up and go, and now for the common sense.
Yeah.
But quite clearly, she, as a cabinet minister, is standing behind Rishi. As are a number of other people, cabinet ministers.
But a lot of them have got knives in their hands.
Yeah. Or in their back. Yes, I support Rishi.
Yeah, I mean, Adam, this seems ridiculous, the idea that it was floated last week that Penny Mordaunt could come in. She actually had a big sword. She could, if they wanted to seize her, Rishi, that'd be, I mean, you'd only need one sword for that. It's not like everybody in the Senate would have to have a go. But so they were going to replace Rishi with Penny Mordaunt. But it seems ridiculous. We're in this, or the Tories are in this mess because they keep replacing their leaders every 2 weeks.
It's just like Groundhog Day. Like just the amount of sort of prime ministers we've gone through in the last sort of year. It just seems crazy. I mean, like I think we all know where maybe the election might take a turn at the end of the year. So why not? Let's get 7 more in.
There's nothing left to lose. So
let's everyone have a go at leading the country. I want to get in on that at some point.
Yeah, there are some people I don't want to have a go. I just want to put that out there.
It's mandatory.
Penny Mordaunt, though, she's from Portsmouth, so she can do no wrong in my eyes.
Okay.
I can't say beyond that.
Yeah, well, she's amazing. She's statuesque. She's got a big sword. She's from Portsmouth. That's 3 boxes ticked right there. Finally, what have the Daily Star got on the cover, Adam?
Washout on the way. Easter, a beaster. Now, basically, long story short, it's going to rain.
Wow. Welcome to the Daily Star.
I mean, that's what I wouldn't expect anything more from Daily Star. So that's a huge story.
Yeah, it is big news, and I think you should probably show a bit more seriousness than that, Adam.
Apologies.
Because we do on this show. Okay,
we haven't had rain before in this.
This is the Daily Star. There will be boffins writing this story. It's important to remember that.
Yeah.
And this is not any old storm. It's 400 miles long. I don't know how they're measuring it. That's a hell of a tape. And it's going to come from the US, which means it's going to be really fat
and loud.
So it's not just the length, but the girth that you're worried about.
And girth is important.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
OK, well, that's it for part 1. Coming up, we've got Trump on the warpath, the Irish solution to migrant camps, and Corbyn taking on Labour. You won't want to miss it. See you in a couple of minutes.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, I'm sure you have seen this video that went viral this week, and if you haven't, well, I think you're going to enjoy it. This is a firefighter leaning on a fence whilst watching a trapped driving instructor's car sink in 4 feet of floodwater. Looks very comfortable there, doesn't he? Just leaning against the fence.
Just chilling, just relaxing. There were 2. There were, in fact, 2 Essex fire and rescue crews, an ambulance and a police car parked near the sinking vehicle, but they wouldn't enter the water because they had to wait for specialist crews who were trained for the water depth.
Well, 2 people who weren't going to sit back and watch were these 2, Jack and Danielle Price, who took it upon themselves to rescue the submerged driver. And Danielle joins us now. Very good morning to you, Danielle, and you are a hero, an absolute hero. What happened in this video? Make sense of it for us.
So we were filming in the area for our YouTube channel, and we've seen the fire brigade come through. I was actually out at 5 o'clock in the morning with my husband, Jamie. We know it always happens there, as you can see, and it was clear. We've seen the fire brigade come through, we've followed them, and they're just standing around as if nothing's happened. In the clip, it says he's fine, he's on his phone, and then sort of walked away. But what they failed to realise is when my partner actually opened the door, as you can hear, he's on the phone to the sort of the emergency crew in panic, thinking he's going to sink. So we could not just sit there and watch. He's absolutely terrified.
Yeah, poor bloke. Well done you. Do you reckon this is health and safety gone mad?
It is, because although I do sympathise with them, they are so red-taped, but surely sort of common sense has to kick in as open the door.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From 10 a.m. every Saturday, we want to make you think and we want to make you laugh.
So we will give you all the top stories.
Now we start with a story that has shocked the nation this week.
But we're also going to make it light and fun and bring some entertainment in to make your Saturday morning nice and restful.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Leo Curse, and the People's Gammon, Paul Cox, and the Croydon Massive, Adam Kumis, kicking things off in this section with The Guardian, and Trump is channeling his inner Genghis Khan. Could be worse, Paul, he could be channeling Sadiq Khan.
Trump predicts bloodbath if he loses election and claims Biden beat Obama. Joe Biden tore into Donald Trump's mental stability at a dinner in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, just as the former president was making verbal gaffes at a campaign rally in Ohio, as well as predicting a bloodbath if he met defeat in November.
And we actually have a clip of him saying that at his campaign rally.
Let's have a look then.
Oh.
And you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine,
He just dropped that into. He was obviously talking about car manufacturing, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, did I tell you we're going to have an absolute civil war and everybody's going to die?"
God.
I mean, the Guardian, by the way, does read like the diary of a vexed teenager.
Yeah.
They've tried to spin this in that it's Donald Trump that has these issues. Now, there's lots of things you can label Donald Trump, but Joe Biden is the one that talks to his socks, thinks Mexico's in the Middle East, sniffs children. You know, these things have all been seen.
Well, in fairness, his son sniffs worse things.
Yes, in the White House.
Yeah, and they're white things. But, I mean, do you think that Biden has got a leg to stand on here? Which is a bit of a dodgy thing to say because he does fall over quite a lot. But, you know, with regards to... I think they're both, actually. I mean, Biden's obviously more markedly and noticeably, you know, suffering from mental deterioration, but Trump as well. He's not a young... He's not a spring chicken anymore.
No.
And he's making some gaffes. He said he was running against Barack Obama or something.
Yeah. So I just love the idea that you've got just two old guys who are just like both having brief moments of lucidity, and then they're just in that moment they go, he's losing his mind, and then the other person just wakes up and goes, no, actually, I'm pretty competent, actually, but you're losing your mind, and it's just hilarious to me. It's just.
And apparently Biden said the same thing. Somebody dug out a clip from years ago of Biden saying a similar thing during
When you look at those clips from years ago, Joe Biden... Joe Biden? Joe Biden. Joe Biden. He should be running.
He's a sitar player.
Paul's having one of his moments.
There's nothing wrong with me.
We'll be losing our minds at the end of the show.
So he looks so lucid, doesn't he? You see these big rants he's made in the 70s and 80s about whatever it might be, and you just think, where's that guy gone? That guy could win the election.
He was also a lot more racist. Now he's quite progressive and woke as a sort of Democrat.
He's forgotten all of it.
To be fair to Joe, it was OK to be racist back then.
The one thing that I loved about Joe Biden, it's a really good clip. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you watch it. It's a clip and he just goes, the United States of America is a country that can be summarised in one word, and then he just goes, and then he just says, Xi Jinping mountains in the Himalayas. And you're like, what? What was he saying?
Geez, sounds like me trying to pronounce a Japanese company. Anyway, we've got the Telegraph now, and it looks like the Tories' strategy of being completely wet, ineffective socialist meat toasts has backfired, Adam.
Yes, so this is the story from the Telegraph. Tories are no longer party of law and order, says 1 in 4 of its voters. So this is the story that 4 in 10 people believe that the Conservatives cannot be trusted to reduce crime rates, despite the issue being of historical importance to the Tory brand. This is basically just a quarter of Tory voters no longer believe that the Conservatives are the party of law and order. And that's just not to be surprised, I guess, if you think, they're rolling back a lot of their sort of tough stances and everything else. Nobody seems to know what the Tories actually stand for. Even going into this election, people who are even sort of supporters of Labour, they're sort of saying, well, we know we might want to support Labour, we don't even know really what they stand for. So this isn't surprising to me. This just makes nobody seems to know what's going on.
Yeah, and Paul, the Tories seem to talk tough. I mean, they've had 14 years of sort of saying, oh yeah, we're gonna clamp down on crime. I'm gonna stop the boats. Nothing ever happens.
There's very little Conservative about the Tory party anymore, and that's the problem. Their history speaks... You know, not... 13 years, right? People keep saying... They don't think that we see this on this channel in some way. But of course we see it. We live it every day. We're in the society that's been created in the last 13 years. And it is shambolic. All credibility is lost. There's a huge gap in the political landscape now for someone to step in and become a Conservative party. And
like Reform.
I've not heard of them, Leo, but I will do my research. Yes, of course, like Reform. But unless the Tories are going to change dramatically, then we have a Labour victory, because I don't think Reform, for instance, are going to be able to step up.
Yeah.
We vote differently in a general election. You know, we sort of vote with this historic grandeur. It's Labour, it's Lib Dem, it's the Tories. Now, unless we culturally change as a bunch of voters, it's probably quite clearly going to be a Labour Party that needs to...
Although we have seen, I mean, the tribal voting of a few decades ago, where people would just be lifelong Labour voters or lifelong Tory voters, that is changing, and people are, you know, becoming much more... They're floating between the parties, probably because all the parties are pretty much identical now. I was shocked to see the Telegraph revealed earlier this month that police have failed to solve a single burglary in nearly half of all neighbourhoods in England and Wales in the last 3 years, which is shocking, considering at the same time the police are now going after people for, you know, retweeting a limerick, for example. Harry Miller was I don't think he was arrested, but he was questioned and had a non-crime hate incident, which is, you know, an Orwellian term for something that goes on your record and is searchable by HR departments and all the rest of it. You know, when the police have got time to persecute people for tweets, but not burglaries, something is seriously wrong at the head of government.
Yeah, very seriously. We're living in a time now where it's all fantasy island stuff.
Yeah.
You know, people make up stuff like, you know, men's breast milk's delicious, and then it becomes policy.
Yeah, well, I tasted some of yours.
It is delicious. Sorry, this was. I would say to my little rashers out there, do buy the Gammon's milk. It's available at all good gammon shops.
Yeah, why do you never get pig milk in the supermarket? Anyway, the Telegraph now, and it looks like the Irish authorities were worried about a migrant camp getting in the way of Paddy's Day festivities, so they drove them up into the mountains and dumped them there, Paul.
That's policing. Irish police clear migrants from campsite in Dublin. So around 200 asylum seekers were moved from their camp outside a government office to another tent site, which was up in the Dublin Mountains. The Dublin Mountains sounds beautiful. I didn't realise there were these big mountains.
It sounds cold.
It does sound cold.
And if I've just arrived from, I don't know, the Middle East or something, I might not want to go to a windswept Irish mountain in a tent.
No, but I would. I'd pay good money. So Ireland have become this kind of pin-up now, haven't they, for the immigration chaos. And, it doesn't matter where you're from. It's not Ireland's problem. It's a kind of a problem across Europe, and it's obviously a problem across the world. I've said this 1,000 times on this show in particular. It doesn't really matter where you're from or what colour your skin is or any of those things that you can't take any control over on the day you're born. People try and build communities, and they build it around an ethos. Now, when you successfully build a community and you keep adding external elements to that are unfettered, that are different and that are not in tune, you don't end up with a cohesive society or community.
Yeah.
And that's the problem we're finding all over the place at the moment. This is happening in Ireland quite a lot. People are speaking up about it. And Ireland are having to do it because they're a huge part of the EU, so they're having to accept whatever the EU tell them to. But that doesn't make us exempt from it. We've got a massive issue of our own. And the trouble is...
Well, in fact, we're almost in a worse position because, not being part of the EU, we can't sort of bargain with them and say, OK, we'll take these ones, but we're going to... the option is, I think, you give money and not accept migrants, and I don't know where they get put, somewhere else in the EU, I guess.
I think the problem we have, though, is that we no longer have identity like... If it's a traditional identity, if we talk about what it means to be British or Irish or French or whatever, it becomes a problem. And then when you chuck the word immigration in with that, it becomes an even bigger problem because you're seen as something derogatory.
Yeah. Well, there's traditionally been Irish people who are people of colour. Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy is a classic example. The Irish, hold them to their hearts. But I think we're seeing this unprecedented level of migration into Ireland that's creating all this social conflict, Adam. Adam.
Yeah, so I mean, when I was reading the story, one thing I thought was interesting was that saying that part of the reason why they moved them is because the original site had come under criticism for becoming sort of squalid and have a lot of rubbish strewn around and stench of urine, and they wanted to, more importantly, make way for a St. Patrick's Day parade, which I imagine would involve a lot of drinking and a lot of maybe rubbish being thrown around and maybe, hopefully, stench and urine. So, like, that's what I was imagining.
Sounds like they could have combined the two.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just get them all and celebrate together. Missed opportunity.
But it's interesting that Leo Varadkar, so he's the Irish leader, he said that St. Patrick, who's the patron saint of Ireland, St. Patrick was an undocumented male migrant. And St. Patrick was not an undocumented male migrant. St. Patrick was a slave who was taken from Britain by, Irish slavers. And
to assume his gender so brazenly like that is something I take great issue with.
He's not having a great week, Leo Varadkar, so hopefully he's on the way out at the next election. Anyway, we've got the Times now with good news for anti-Semitic communist morons in Islington. You're still going to be able to vote for who you want. Jeremy Corbyn's running, Adam.
Yeah, so this is a story that Jeremy Corbyn will run against Labour, leaked email suggests. So yes, the one-time party leader has inquired about printing election leaflets and says he will continue his work for Islington North. This story is quite close to me, actually, because living in Croydon, there's actually, I believe I've seen multiple times his brother, Piers Corbyn, handing around leaflets about, like, anti-vax.
He's got the same illness as Biden, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's just old men handing out leaflets, trying to stay relevant on both, in all accounts. I'm quite happy with it, to be honest. I don't know, it was kind of interesting, like, saying that he got, like, the inquiry cost, they were inquiring about the cost of 40,000 leaflets, 2,000 posters, 500 round candidate stickers. All I got, and 500 lawn signs. Not very eco-friendly.
Maybe he's planning an Edinburgh Fringe show.
Oh my God! Stick it in an email.
We've seen this before in London with Ken Livingstone, who's booted out of the Labour Party and then ran as an independent candidate for mayor and got in, and then was allowed back into the Labour Party, I believe. Is he still in? I'm not even sure.
Well, it was called Red Ken, but I think it was for other reasons.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he ever did go back into the Labour Party. I don't think he did, actually. But I mean, North Islington are welcome to Jeremy Corbyn. They voted for him for decades, OK? And if that's who they want to vote for, good on them. I haven't got an issue with it. The only problem I've ever had with Corbyn is that he may have been in charge of this country. Because I had plenty of issues with, his sort of prefect student politics, this ideology that, it's all free jam and sandals. No, it's not, Jeremy.
And Hamas and Hezbollah are our friends and can come for tea in Westminster. And it's like, man, you're literally sowing the seeds of the fall of Western civilization, which is obviously, possibly what a lot of these people want, because, I know Corbyn and other people on the far left of the Labour Party, or, that used to be on the far left of the Labour Party, have strong ties, or had strong ties to the Soviet Union. I'm not going to say anything that he's going to sue me over, but...
No, I'm sure he'd be happy with that, to be fair. Look, people should vote who they should vote for, right? OK, there's lots of people all around. George Galloway, Diane Abbott. I can't think of any bad Tory MPs, are there any? People do vote for who they want to vote for, and absolutely right. I have no problem with that, as long as they're not in charge of the whole blooming country.
OK, well, that's it for this section, but stay with us for a chip shop ordered to take down its Union flag, and we'll have the thrilling result of the election in Russia. Will Putin manage to squeeze back in? It's all to play for. See you in a couple of minutes.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. Well, for the week ahead, it is remaining changeable across the country, but for the most part, it's going to be fairly mild. So as we end this weekend, still got low pressure in charge. This weather front here will bring another spell of rain as we go through the course of the night. Ahead of it, it does turn largely dry and clear, especially across parts of England and Wales. Some mist and fog forming in a few spots. And then behind it does then turn a bit drier and clearer for the end of the night across Northern Ireland. But for all of us, it is going to be a mild night. Temperatures not falling much lower than around 5 to 7 degrees. So we do start the day off with some sunshine across eastern parts of the Midlands, East Anglia, Lincolnshire way, but the cloud further west will spread its way that little bit further eastwards. Any rain on it will slowly peter out, so not actually a lot of rain arriving into East Anglia. And then behind it, it does turn drier and brighter, some good spells of sunshine developing before then the next band of rain arrives in the west. Mild, temperatures potentially reaching 17 degrees in the southeast. Tuesday, a rather grey and damp start. Plenty of spots of rain around. As the day goes on, we will see some bright spells across parts of Northern Ireland, Scotland, maybe Northern England too, and still remaining fairly mild. Wednesday, Thursday stays fairly changeable, quite wet potentially on Wednesday, but all the time temperatures for all of us in double figures.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got The Guardian now with the news that Muslim prisoners have been targeted with pepper spray, which is bad because it's during Ramadan and pepper spray counts as food. Paul.
Yes, devastating stuff. Muslim prisoners unfairly targeted with pepper spray, says rights group, not a right group, not on the right. They're not right. In 2022, the MOJ, which is MOJ even, which is the Ministry of Justice, data shows 34% of those targeted with synthetic pava spray, which is pepper spray, were Muslims, who make up 18% of the prison population. OK. But they also go on to say that Christians, who make up 46% of the population, were targeted 43% of the time. This is in The Guardian. So that's the context you need to know here. They've taken a bunch of statistics, they've swiveled it and skewed it for their own benefit. Now, this could be a very interesting story, but they've turned it into a race and religion story. Yeah. For their own benefit. And that's why nobody believes anything they say. And I know that's true of some of our other papers as well, but my goodness, this story could have been told 15 different ways.
Well, they're putting the cart before the horse. I've seen this reported from the other direction. So prison staff have complained that they're getting attacked more in prison by, you know, because there's a lot of Islamic extremists in prison. A lot of the terrorist population are thankfully put in prison where they can't commit terrorist atrocities. But in prison, they continue radicalising people and they're attacking prison staff because it's not as if they're like, oh, I want to get out in good behaviour. They're like, no, I want to kill some infidels. So they're attacking prison staff. So it's not as if the prison staff are just like running up to random Muslims and being like, hey, what religion are you? And spraying them in the face. They're doing this. From the prison staff would say, we're doing this to defend ourselves. Yeah, and there's an increased risk of threat from this particular population. And The Guardian don't mention that element at all, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, when I read the story, it sort of instantly sort of took me back to when I first got pepper sprayed in a nightclub in Vodka Rebs in Sutton many years ago.
Was that because you're from Croydon?
Yeah, it was a gang thing. No, I think some bouncer just snuck it in and pepper sprayed everyone.
What's
and I just
that
happened to be
like, pepper spray?
It's just very quite intense, and then it sort of goes away. And then I tried to take refuge downstairs because the downstairs wouldn't. And then it smelled sick. I thought, let me just go back up to the pepper spray. That was better. That was better. I have mixed feelings about pepper spray use in general. At one point, I think, oh, it is quite nasty having it, and then I also think, well, salt and pepper is the only thing that British cuisine has. Like, can't take away that.
Adam, have you had Worcestershire sauce?
Yes. I have had that. Yeah, I love the Imperial.
Have you had English mustard?
Not in the eye. Not in the eye. No. Not since university.
Maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need Nerf guns that fire English mustard instead of
Let's put some taste back into
make
us
it
side
patriotic.
speak.
Yeah. OK, moving on. We've got The Guardian and Labour say they'll ban nude fakes of celebrities. Well, good luck rounding up all my pictures of Alan Titchmarsh, Labour. Adam, tell us more.
Let me just say, Liam, I've seen your work that you've done with Alan Titchmarsh, and I'm a big fan. So.
Yeah. I put the titch.
Yeah, big fan. I think, so this is the story from The Guardian. Labour considers nudification ban and cross-party pledge on AI deepfakes. So for those of you who don't know what deepfakes are, I'm sure you guys probably know, but so basically it's the modern-day equivalent of getting someone's head, sort of like originating it off a photo and putting it on a naked body and then sort of making it real, but obviously making it look very realistic. I don't understand. I mean, I think it makes sense that this is obviously getting banned. I think this is something that needs to be tackled. I think the story is a little bit sort of sensationalist. It's mostly also to tackle electoral misinformation, and obviously the biggest danger, which would be non-consensual pornographic images of potential electoral candidates, which would be probably the most horrifying. Seeing somebody.
Nobody wants to see that.
No, all the ugliest people in politics.
It's going to be a difficult something. And but yeah, I mean, this worries me. The fact that they're going after electoral misinformation, because what they can do and what they've done before, like with the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, which was completely legitimate. There was a laptop that revealed that Hunter Biden had been doing all these nefarious activities, highly illegal. Some of them supposedly with state money, which is a complete felony. And it was suppressed by the Democrat Party, working in concert with government agencies and with big tech. So those stories were deranked and that had a big effect on the election, and Joe Biden got in. Obviously, that wasn't the only factor in the election. But this is the way they're sort of sneaking in censorship through the back door.
Yeah, I mean, the story is about nudification, which is sexy. They should ban nudification. There are celebrities out there who don't want to be represented as nude models.
Yeah.
I don't mind. In fact, we've got a follower who often does me topless, and I'd like to thank you
Sterling
for
Mark.
that.
I'm looking forward to the inevitable nude Paul after this show.
You know exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Just look on Twitter
for that. Just make it warm. Keep it warm. That's all I'm asking.
You have to sort of like imagine the motivation for these people who are creating sort of nudification or deepfakes of like celebrities. Like, if you are that much and you want, just like close your eyes and just do it old-fashioned. Just imagine someone naked.
We need to bring back imagination into people's pleasure time. Also, I'm worried that the police are going to be dealing with nude photos, fake nude photos, instead of dealing with the actual crime that we're talking about, the burglaries, the car thefts, the robberies.
So that's a great point. And there is a big leap from this nudification to the stuff you were talking about, and the stuff we are very, very likely to see later this year in terms of the general election and, of course, the election in the US. So all these things, to me, this nanny state stuff, I always find a bit of a worry. What are they trying to do?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the Mail now, and a British fish and chip shop is in trouble for flying the Union flag instead of one of the two acceptable flags in Britain, the Pride flag or the Palestinian flag, Paul.
Yes, gammons unite. This is going to get hairy. Award-winning fish and chip shop is ordered to remove the Union flag mural by council officials because it's inappropriate for the area.
And we've got a picture of the actual mural coming up.
I said Muriel a minute ago. Auntie Muriel wasn't there.
Where is it? There it is. So it's a nice big picture on the wall. It's a guy. Apparently, it's a recreation of a sign that was there before. It's very popular with the locals. Well, not all of them apparently, because somebody complained. And he paid a local artist 250 quid to paint it.
Yeah, we should give him a mention. Actually, his name's Chris Cananzi. He's 65. He runs the Golden Chippy, and the reason we should do that is because I want people to go to that chip shop.
Yeah.
He wants people to go to that chip shop. That's why that's become a big story. But I want free fish and chips as well. I'll look forward to seeing you, Chris. But look. This story is much more about Greenwich Council saying this is probably not appropriate. However, there have been so many precedents set. I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. If that had been George Floyd holding a bag of chips, there's no way, even if people wanted it down, they would be saying to take it down. And this is where we find ourselves now. It's the Union Jack. It's fish and chips. Yeah. It's all we've got left. Let us have it.
Yeah, Adam, I feel like I've seen this a few times. People with Union flags in the Palestinian protest. They get dragged out by the police. Obviously, the police would say, "Well, we're here to preserve the peace. You know, it's not that he's committed a crime. And this guy, Chris Kanisi, so he's from Cyprus, but he's obviously a patriotic Brit who's made this his country and feels passionately and belongs here. So, yeah, what's the problem?
I don't personally. I don't.
What is the problem, Adam?
Yeah, what is the problem? No, I mean, I think this guy's great. I mean, he's Cypriot. I'm half Cypriot myself, so I feel
straight away. That's a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, great stuff. I like him.
That is how it works.
I think at the end of the day, this guy is probably, you know, I know it's rubbish that he's having to get rid of it, but he's at the end of the day, look, we're giving him publicity. He's going to do really well. So at the end of the day, he's a win-win, and he's already done this before with a sign. I can't wait to see what next he's doing. You know, with fireworks and everything else. That'd be good.
So get down there for some cod and a pickled egg. The Telegraph now, and the latest corporate inclusive language guide says the corporation's own name is offensive. Adam.
Yeah, so this is a very odd story by the Telegraph. So this is widows. The term widows is triggering, says bank that owns Scottish widows. So this is Lloyds Bank saying unnecessarily vivid term should not be used and warns against referring to guinea pigs to be inclusive of vegans. So I don't know. This spurs off crazy already. I mean, it's suddenly, I said earlier, like it makes me sort of remember an old PETA campaign, which was like attacking a lot of old sayings. Like there was one that was saying, instead of using the words or the phrase kill two birds with one stone, they wanted you to change it to things like feed two birds with one scone and these sort of things.
What if you pronounce scone?
Oh, then it doesn't work, and then you have to kill the birds, I think.
Welcome on board, Adam.
Yeah, exactly. But then when you look into the story, you kind of just go, okay, how has this come up? You know, and then you kind of go, oh, it's been come up by the inclusion team by the bank, and you just go, oh, these are just guys looking to get paid. We're in inclusion time. Let's come up with something.
They're trying to justify their salaries. So going around saying, and some of the other recommendations, Paul, are ridiculous. So you're not allowed to say running around like a headless chicken, because that might offend vegans as well, who will be, well, this is a hypothetical chicken. There's no real chicken. You weren't talking about, it's just a saying. Also, sold down the river is offensive because it could be linked to slavery and penetration testing. Penetration, which is a software
testing.
An IT term.
Yeah,
and it could be, testing.
Let's not take away penetration testing there. I don't know what I said. But, I mean, they don't make no suggestions of what we said. They do with these phrases, but instead of widows, what are you supposed to say?
Yeah. They say separated.
From what their dead husbands.
Yeah, they say that's
We've got a word for it. It's not people who identify as someone with a dead husband. it's a widow. It doesn't mean anything. It does mean something. It means something.
It means the thing that it means.
Just honestly, people. If you work in an inclusion team, don't go to work tomorrow. Don't get on the train. Stay at home. Save us all the.
If you work in inclusion, you're part of the problem, and you need to be just quit. You're going to get, as soon as Javier Milei takes over the UK, you're going to get fired anyway. Afuera! So do it now yourself. Moving on, we've got the Mirror now, and Putin has been re-elected with an incredible 142% of the vote. That's just how popular he is, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, actually, that's great Russian maths. So, yeah, this is a story about the Mirror. Vladimir Putin secures another term as Kremlin leader in latest exit poll results. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I think this is very interesting because, obviously, we've recently had his fiercest critic, Alexei Navalny, has recently sort of died in Arctic prison last month under very sort of suspicious circumstances. I think we all know what happened there.
Yes, he had a bad cold, Adam.
He had a bad cold for the second time. First time was on the plane. I don't know. I think this is Russia is always a very interesting country to me because they are the opposite in the UK in the sense that they've had one leader, Vladimir Putin, for so many decades, and yet we just go through leaders sort of like every other week. So it's interesting.
See, what you're saying is you'd like to see a dictatorship in the UK.
Absolutely. I think that's the most important thing.
That's what we're all hearing.
Yeah.
I mean, what a relief it must be for Putin, though. He must have spent all weekend sweating over this. Can you imagine a Putin head? I don't even know what his party is. I assume it's called a party for Putin. Yeah. But I assume it's something of that ilk. He must have been there all weekend thinking, come on. Somebody send out the guards with guns to make sure they're voting for me.
There was a really interesting quote from one of the guys who did the exit poll. It was like a voter, and his name is Dmitry Shchenko, and who cast his ballot in Moscow. And he said, and I love it, I'm going to do it in a Russian accent because I think I'm allowed to do that. He just goes, he just said, I am happy with everything and want everything to continue as it is now. And that's something I'd say if I was at gunpoint. You know, just that's exactly what you'd expect.
Another funny thing, the EU President Charles Michel, or Charles Michel, he probably says, because he's in the EU, he tweeted Putin, but before the vote took place, congratulating him on his victory. Which
he was trolling, yeah?
Oh, yeah, he was trolling. Yeah, he hadn't just mistimed
Great
the tweet.
work.
You know,
I don't know, he might have scheduled it wrong. or wishing him luck, I don't know.
We'll be back in a moment for the final section with the guy behind the disastrous Willy Wonka event, Christian nightclubs, and a warning for Jake Paul for his fight with Mike Tyson. See you in a couple of minutes.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
Should we put tobacco-style warnings on ultra-processed foods? Boris Johnson is calling on the government to do this. In this Daily Mail column, the former Prime Minister says that people don't know what they're feeding their families and there's too many extra ingredients. That's why I'm asking, should we put tobacco-style warnings on ultra-processed food? Well, joining me now to discuss, Steve Miller, former presenter of Fat Families, Helena Davidson, campaigner and policy expert at the Vegan Society. Right, so I'm going to start with you. Steve Miller, what do you think?
Oh, I'm applauding Boris today. Good on you, mate. And the reason for that is we know that the research on the warnings on cigarettes, I should say, when those warnings were visual, they worked very well. The second reason on a practical level is that we need to stop looking and listening before we start, grazing and putting things in the trolley. And the third thing is that these kind of signs, or these warnings, I should say, are kind of hypnotic. They trigger the emotion. So they're much more likely to get people to think and maybe resist.
Yeah, so at the Vegan Society, we're broadly in favour of increasing consumer knowledge when it comes to the nutritional value of people's food. But I think it's important to mention that ultra-processed food isn't an issue that's exclusive to vegans. And whilst most meat alternatives will fall into the ultra-processed food category, it largely depends on how we're going to look at how UPFs are going to be assessed, because vegan alternatives that fall under ultra-processed foods, they're actually, on average, healthier than meat products or ultra-processed foods that contain animal products.
Really?
So I think it depends on how we look at it. We might have to take a closer look at the nutritional profile of individual foods rather than the level of processing.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. The Metro now, and the guy who organised the disastrous Willy Wonka event says it ruined his life. Cheer up, mate. In a few months, you can put on a disastrous Lapland experience.
Willy Wonka event organiser says his life is ruined. The organiser of now notorious immersive experience, it was not, mate, event had said the viral public backlash over the cheap sets and depressed-looking actors has ruined his life. I'm really pleased, actually, just on that point, that the depressed-looking actor, she has come out and she's making a little bit of a career for herself, because she didn't deserve that whatsoever. She was the only one who tried to make that thing fun for anyone, because this man created a dystopia for kids, like a hellish dystopia for kids, and charged the parents 35 quid to get in. Now he's saying he was going to use the profits from it to pay for a lavish wedding. He's been unable to do that. Of course, That's like, what are you talking about? Well, if you rob a train and you have a holiday planned in Marbella, you can't complain to the judge. You can't go, I was going to go on holiday for 6 years with that money.
My proceeds from this crime.
You can't do he just put up a couple of candy canes and said, welcome to Willy Wonka experience. And here's 35 quid. And immediately, of course, it became what it was.
Yeah.
I don't have any sympathy for it. The guy got it massively wrong and he needs to cheer up.
Adam, do you have any sympathy? I mean, personally, I'd pay 35 quid to go along and watch those children crying.
Exactly my point. I thought that would be hilarious. Just like little kids crying. I'd pay double that easily. I don't know. Like he said he wanted to do have a lavish wedding, you know, and everything else. But you know, if he's Willy Wonka events anything to go by, it probably wouldn't have been a lavish wedding. It probably been one of the worst weddings in history. I would have liked to have gone to that too, to be honest.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. I would have got caught in the chocolate pipe though.
We've got the Star now with an update from the latest freak show boxing match. It's Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Tell us more, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, who doesn't like to see celebrities being punched in the face for money? I mean, I'd see that every day. So this is from the Daily Star. Jake Paul putting life on the line versus Mike Tyson, warns ex-UFC champ Tyron Woodley. So this is supposedly an exclusive for the ex-UFC champion Tyron Woodley. Says Jake Paul deserves credit for taking on Mike Tyson, but warned his former opponent that he's putting his life on the line against the boxing icon. Now, what's important to note about this, and I'm a bit passionate about this because I do watch the UFC, is Tyron Woodley has fought Jake Paul himself twice.
Really?
Yeah, he's fought Jake Paul twice, and in the second round, and the second time he fought him, he did get knocked out in the 6th round. So
by Jake Paul?
By Jake Paul, which is exactly the reason why he's saying, oh, Jake Paul's a tough guy and everything else, but he's got to get himself knocked out because it's his own reputation on the line.
Yeah. And in your like, do you think that Jake Paul is credible as a fighter?
I think he is credible as a fighter, but his biggest thing is the fact that he always goes on about being an ex-Disney sort of child star and a YouTuber. So he plays on the fact that I'm just a YouTuber, but he's actually quite competent as a boxer.
He is a good boxer within the arena that he has partly created.
Yeah.
You know, if he stepped in with Mike Tyson when Mike Tyson was 27, he would be mashed up.
He would be a stain on the floor.
And you know, he's going to be okay. Mike Tyson's not going to kill him in the ring, but he's still going to get his face pummeled by
and I've seen footage of Mike Tyson sparring, and I think it could be nice for Mike Tyson to finish his career by killing Jake Paul. That's all I'm saying. We've got the mail now, and dog owners want the right to get paid leave to care for sick animals. How about as a compromise, they get a sack and some bricks, Adam?
Well, I think the sack and bricks would be a good idea, but luckily in our country, our rivers are filled with enough sewage to kill any animal. So you wouldn't sack and sewage not needed. Not needed.
Good point.
So yeah, this story's from the Daily Mail saying we want paternity leave. Half of dog owners demand the same rights as parents when getting time off work to care for their animals. This is a very middle class problem. I think very middle class. I come from a family where the pet insurance was scoffed upon, and I know friends who didn't even give their pets names. They simply called them cat and dog. So the idea of getting paternity leave is funny to me. I would kind of like. Also, it says 1 in every 10 so-called dog parents. We all know the 1 in 10. It's the ones who have the dogs as an emotional support animal, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's all nonsense, and the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Monday's front pages. The Daily Mail has Sunak allies rage at Penny. The Times leads with, this is our bounce back year, Sunak tells critics. The Guardian says, Watchdog condemns NHS culture of cover-ups. The Express has Tory MP's plot to topple Rishi is just self-indulgence. That's Esther McVeigh. The iNews has revealed top secret UK military system still managed by Hujitsu. And finally, the Daily Star, Easter or Beaster. And those were your front pages, and that's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests Paul Cox and Adam Kumis. We're back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Simon Evans. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Goodbye.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast on the Met Office. Well, for the week ahead, it is remaining changeable across the country, but for the most part, it's going to be fairly mild. So as we end this weekend, still got low pressure in charge. This weather front here will bring another spell of rain as we go through the course of the night. Ahead of it, it does turn largely dry and clear, especially across parts of England and Wales. Some mist and fog forming in a few spots. And then behind it does then turn a bit drier and clearer for the end of the night across Northern Ireland. But for all of us, it is going to be a mild night. Temperatures not falling much lower than around 5 to 7 degrees. So we do start the day off with some sunshine across eastern parts of the Midlands, East Anglia, Lincolnshire way, but the cloud further west will spread its way that little bit further eastwards. Any rain on it will slowly peter out, so not actually a lot of rain arriving into East Anglia. And then behind it, it does turn drier and brighter, some good spells of sunshine developing before then the next band of rain arrives in the west. Mild, temperatures potentially reaching 17 degrees in the southeast. Tuesday, a rather grey and damp start, plenty of spots of rain around. As the day goes on, we will see some bright spells across parts of Northern Ireland, Scotland, maybe Northern England too, and still remaining fairly mild. Wednesday, Thursday stays fairly changeable, quite wet potentially on Wednesday, but all the time temperatures for all of us in double figures.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Want to be a winner?
You've won £18,000.
Oh, flipping heck. I don't know what to say.
Enter our massive spring giveaway with 3 big seasonal prizes to be won. There's £12,345 in tax-free cash to give your finances a spring boost. We'll also send you on a shopping spree with £500 worth of vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. You'll also get a garden gadget package. For another chance to win the vouchers, the treats and £12,345 in tax-free cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB03 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 29th of March. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if watching or listening on demand. Good luck.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. 2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most